When first formed, it was outrageous. You know, we thought it was a sellout to sign for a record label. You know, so extreme rebirth. So it's just a complete sellout. You know, to be on an independent record label, no man. You know.
You've been with what, 9
So
records?
compromise, really.
And you've been with what, 9 record labels now?
What?
Have you been with 9 record labels now, is
Something
it?
like that, yeah.
Why is it that there's been 9 record labels? Like, why have you moved?
Well, it's like, I think they tend to get complacent with the fall, I think. They tend to look at it like so many people out there buy it, it's indie rock, whatever, or whatever daft idea they've got about it. And I've got very firm ideas on what we're about, you know.
Yeah, we are the fall and we are the best. Yeah, we are the fall and we are the best. Yeah, we are the fall and we are the best.
Key Vietnam films in your life. Apocalypse Now. Biggest misconception about you in the press? That I swear continually. Ever been sacked? Yes. Hermstone's Containers. Blessing in disguise. How rich are you? Not at all. How poor were you? I used to babysit for cigarettes. Favorite invasion of another country? I mean, obviously, it's the Franco-Prussian War of 1871. Current reading matter? Farewell Party Milan by Milan Kundera. The Farber Book of Reportage. Last CD you bought. The Power by Snap. The worst thing about British people in hot weather, they're shorts. Biggest embarrassment of the rock world? Susan Vega's lyrics, especially on Tom's Dinner, unreleased version of The Last Material World. How will the Falls first foray into film acting as a team of scrap metal merchants?
Oh,
Yeah. Stupidest lyric you ever wrote? Benny's Cowboy Eyes off Who Made the Nazis?
mm-hmm.
Your favorite moment so far? The last 2 songs we wrote. Your advice to Birdland. Get your hair cut and shave regularly. Best thing about Tommy Cooper. He could play 2 roles at once. The most rock and roll thing you've done this week. Rehearse. How big's your wad? Massive. That's why I'm skinned. The best fall album. Extricate. What will you be like at 40? Mature. Most loathsome man on TV. Nicholas Witchell and Michael Barrymore.
I'll take his word for it. Yeah.
The worst.
It's always interesting to hear, about the personal preferences of Mr. Marky Smith. And that, what was that from, Steve?
That was an article written by Andrew Collins.
A little Q&A.
A little Q&A. I mean,
the man.
I think this would be the best way to just get him off his toes a little bit, leaning back, just quick fire Q&A session. Don't let him think too much. Just boom, boom, boom. Don't let him think you're start judging you too much.
Do any of those stick out to you? Any of those answers from Marky Smith?
I mean, I like his favorite invasion of another country. That's a great one.
That's a great question especially for him. Without a doubt. You're asking him something that he's enthralled by. I like that a lot.
He had an answer straight up. He's like, oh yeah, of course it's the Franco-Prussian War of 1871.
That's so easy. That's right on the tip of my tongue before he even asked it. Yeah, and then also like his favorite. I forgot what it was, the question, but it was like kind of like the favorite thing you've done, and it's like the last 2 songs that he's made, and that really is well, I think that's what we're going to get into today, where we're getting into the 1993 album from the fall, the Infotainment Scan, and this album is it's kind of reinvigorated sound, what I hear of the fall and Mark and the gang getting, I don't know, a fresh start on a new label. And it's also a kind of cutting out of the legs, of the knees of people that like to look backwards instead of looking forwards. And I just like that answer of, the most interesting, motivating thing that he feels like he's done lately or ever is the last thing that he's done, which is write new songs. He's not interested in looking backwards, and this album is really kind of really pokes and prods at individuals that really look back too much and are nostalgic, and maybe that goes into the infotainment title where people are, watching these things that are about the past and thinking they're being entertained or something like that, but they're not really being the cutting edge artists that Mark has, Mark's ability to do with his mind is really intriguing. So, welcome back to We Are the Fall. I'm Gavin.
And I'm Steve.
Like I said, we're going to get into this really fun 1993 LP, but Steve, you read me something that was really fun, and I'm going to read you something that's really fun of the same time that this album came out and some inquiries into the album. So take a little gander at this. I was fucking haywire, me. How dare you fucking the fucking A&R guy on the fucking holiday in the fucking India or whatever. So I rang up that jerk and I go, we've given you 3 fucking top 30 LPs in 3 fucking years. And this fucking kid who's fucking just come out of fucking business school, maybe the Birmingham School of Business School, he wants the fucking demo tapes of the fall. And he goes, man, it's the recession, mate. So that's a little insight into what was going on behind the scenes prior to the release of Infotainment Scan and prior to actually it seems like the making of Infotainment Scan. And we've kind of touched on this a little bit in the previous episodes, the Peel session and singles, where we're talking about the preliminary process for this album being made. And so they get dropped by the label. They get asked for demos, apparently. They get dropped by their label, but it's not without a benefit, which is they get basically bought out of their last record they were supposed to make, and they get it seemed like a hefty wad of production cash. And what they do with that cash is make a new album, and they get signed to a new label, Permanent Records, and also signing to that new label with this album, they get a distribution deal with Matador Records in the United States and go on a US tour. So it kind of all worked out, but it is interesting to hear Mark, as he does, handle the business side. What do you think when you're hearing that?
Yeah, I think when it's good and he's being left alone and nobody's bitching about money and things are getting paid and the bills are satisfied, everyone's got their fun cash, he doesn't really care. He'll happily coast along with any record label. But the second there's a bump in the road, the grass is always greener wherever else, anywhere else. I feel like he's always had that cockiness that something else will either come along, or maybe he's good enough at what he does in that regard that he's already got, other irons in the fire, other people that he knows are interested and, ready to sign him. Or maybe it's just a shot in the dark and he says, well, if this is the end, this is the end. I guess we made a good run.
I mean, totally. He's cocky, but he does have a reason to be cocky at this point, where the Fall have produced albums that have done provided the label with benefit of charting albums as far as the Fall is concerned, right? And now we're going to get into this release, which it's kind of like unfortunate because that the label missed out on capitalizing on what would become the highest charting LP by the band, the Infotainment Scan. I don't think that it would have been the same if they stayed on that label, because I do have a theory that them going to a new label and even making this album on their own without label oversight and just doing their own thing, I think it gave them some juice and it gave them some reinvigorated uh, creativity to go into the studio and make something that was like this. I wonder what you hear.
I think the rest of the guys always are performing at a high level, but I feel like Mark especially will performs at his best, maybe purely fueled on spite. Like all he wants to
Yep,
do is
yeah.
just make and he wants to make a good name for himself with the new bosses. Maybe get him some slack that they can ride for a while, and so he
Mhm.
wants to give him something good. But it's like when you break up with someone, and like time to hit the gym and get a new wardrobe. You want everyone to see what you want her to see what she's missing out on now. Like
Mhm.
you're fucking you're gonna do it, and you
Yeah.
decided to abandon me, so fuck off. Here's your loss, not mine.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened, and this is all conjecture that we like to do, but I think that's kind of somewhat of it what fueled this, and it also, I think, fueled Mark's performances on this album that we have been kind of interestingly diverse in his approach to lyric delivery on the studio albums, but this album, he is there, and he is delivering, and he's also delivering some of his most cutting lines that we like to hear at specific bands, people, entities, ideas, like just like nostalgia in general, like cutting that down to size. And so I think Mark got his edge back. He sharpened the blade again. They went into recording with a fresh approach. The band is the same, right? It's the same personnel. They're just doing something that has a little bit more freedom, but at the same time, it's interesting too because what comes out of it is not something that's like really experimental and like unless we're talking about the closing track, it's not really experimental here and it's almost the opposite of experimental, which might have caused it to be so well received and well purchased. I was reading a bunch of reviews about this album went up from the time it came out. And Steve, you got any guess on what was like the most frequently popping up adjective to describe this album? A word?
Oh,
I mean, if you had to describe this album to
with in one word,
next to all the other fall albums,
I don't know. How is it? What does it start with?
A.
Androgynous.
I mean, there is a lot of glam stuff that we will get into. A lot of glam references and glam sounds. No, that's a good guess. That's a good guess. But the word that kept on popping up was accessible. This was the most accessible fall album, and even Funky Sai in his book says this is his favorite album that he worked on while he was in the band, like out of his whole tenure, which is interesting too. But then he says it's also the most accessible, and actually it shows that it probably was just in its chart, you know, the way it was up in the charts compared to the rest of the fall albums. And I think it is accessible. I think it's really solid as far as here, I got a theory of why it sold so well. Because all these reviews were mostly positive and we're all saying this is the most accessible fall album. I actually have a theory that a lot of fall fans and a lot of fall heads bought this album for their partner, their friend, their relative, their acquaintance as an introduction to the fall, right? To get them into it because so it was basically the fall fan buying themselves a copy, but then also buying a copy for like the person that they want to get into the fall personally because they think they'll be enjoying it, and they get them this album. I think that's my theory about why it sold so well.
I can see that. It's definitely, there's nothing oppressive or like you said, yeah, there's nothing super experimental. There's no super strange sounds that people are just gonna be like, whoa, I don't like that at all.
No, it rocks too, right? It's like rocking. It's got some really great grooves to it. Just looking at the first four tracks, two of them are covers. That's automatically gonna make the album more accessible to a wider audience. Just having that, and those two covers are
I was gonna say, yeah, it's
interesting choices.
interesting choices, but totally redone, which isn't
Yeah.
necessarily normal for them. Like they do not sound
Hmm.
like the original ones, where most of the time it's just kind of a slight variation off of the original one. And these two are definitely
Yeah.
just the same words without really much else.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the sounds on this album because it's really interesting. There's a lot of references to glam rock, things of that nature. I also hear a lot of disco influences that Mark, he liked pop music when it was good, as he considered. And we get some disco influences, some sounds that are in that vein, which I really like as well. It's like a glam and disco sound, but only in a way that the Fall could do it. And at the same time, also giving shit to like
Yeah, like
bad
after the
versions of that.
exactly, like after the fact, right? I mean, it's 1993. Like
Yeah.
glam and disco aren't exactly popping off the charts right now.
No, but dance music is, and that's kind of a branch off of the in the house music, right? Of that disco sound. So I think he was just trying to do it in a cool and interesting way. What do you think about when you hear that title though? The Infotainment Scan? Because I love the title.
I mean, I think when you hear it and then you think of the fall, I mean, I go to just some of Mark's oddities and, sci-fi, like it just seems like
Mm,
it could very easily be like a dystopian sci-fi movie title, right? Like,
hmm.
or, a book. I mean, I wonder where it came from exactly.
I also hear the sci-fi nature, and I also every time I hear the title, I just think immediately of Infinite Jest and in Infinite Jest. Did you ever read that? David Foster Wallace
Yes.
Infinite, and that was, I mean, that's hard. It took me 3 tries to do that,
Yeah, I was gonna say
but
I don't know if I've gotten through it all, but yes, I've read most of it.
always when I hear infotainment scan, I think of there's a there's a concept in there. There's a part of it where people are basically becoming entranced by watching disc visuals on a screen, right? Like almost like an escapism. And I always think about that as the infotainment device, and then the scan is like something part of it, like it's scanning them as they're watching it, as they're becoming basically comatose because they're just attracted to it and also becoming disconnected from the physical world. And it's something that I think it's a great title. I think it fits a lot of the themes in this album. And because the only other theme that we haven't touched on yet is Spangles Candy, because Spangles Candy pops up a lot here. And are you familiar with Spangles Candy?
I'm not.
Okay. Spangles Candy is, I've never had it, but it's a hard candy, and it basically looks kind of like Lifesaver, Jolly Ranchers, hard candy in cubes, rectangular or squares.
Oh yeah, like a
You unwrap.
lifesaver for sure. That's
Yeah.
the saver.
Yeah. Hard candy. So why do you think the Spangles Candy pops up a lot in Mark's lyrics on this album? It's a weird choice.
I mean, it looks like a tasty treat. I'd be singing about them too if I had them.
It's just got to be like, for me, it's just got to be like a thing that's a nostalgic thing that he was always, that people maybe were like thinking about, because it seemed like it went away. And the limited research I did on it, because I didn't want to go down a YouTube hole about Spangles Candy, but it seems like those candies went away. And I think that might be something Mark's getting at, which is like like little things like that are specific things that are like taking you back to probably like childhood, you know.
I see an ad here. Old English flavor, Spangles candy.
Old English flavors. Yeah.
Spangles are double wrapped to keep all the flavor in and all the dirt out. We've
Mm-hmm.
got mint humbug, aniseed, licorice. Looks like
Fantasy.
black licorice, pear drop,
No black
and
licorice at all.
and Tracicle. I'm sure I'm gonna get abolished for that one. Treacle, Terracicle. I don't know what flavor that is.
Okay, that sounds like old timey stuff. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind trying some of those, but I don't know if it's that hard to.
Treacle. I think treacle is a thick, dark syrup made from partly refined sugar. Oh, it tastes like molasses. Molasses flavor.
Oh, okay, that sounds good. I'll try that one. Not the black licorice. No, thank you. Let's get into this album, Steve. The only thing that I want to share with you, this last little thing is I did find a one sentence review by just a listener user review about this album. And I think this is a good way to lead it off, which is on Infotainment Scan, Marky Smith becomes more glam than David Bowie and more paranoid than Jesus Christ.
There we go.
Okay.
Infotainment is a word that started in the 1980s, and it means broadcast material which is intended to both entertain and to inform. I mean, that's
that's us.
That's us. I feel like that was Mark as well. Like he wanted to inform you on some of his deeper thoughts and feelings with his lyrics. So
He did, but it was mostly entertainment, right? The info is like and that's the way I like to take it, and that's the way I like to approach this kind of medium that we're in is you entertain, but you got the info in there, and it might be, as Mark likes to do, it's accurate, but only to a certain extent because it is also manipulated and it is also tweaked to fit a different context or a different story or a different domain. And that I like. If you're just talking about old documentaries, then I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the information is really up to you to kind of decipher and suss out for yourself versus in your face, like this is what's going down.
Yeah, totally.
Can you pick up on where I'm going with this, or is it floating right past you?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So let's get into Infotainment Scan. What are we leading off with this first track?
Ladybird, Green Grass.
And there's a big concert going down in this town. People can't see society broken down. I said it up on the green grass, but it just
a little reverse effect at the introduction is fun. Also fits the theme.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the machines are good, well played here on the different tracks. Are heavy some areas, not present others. It's good.
I think I really like this as an opening track from this era. This is one of my favorite ways that they open an album. Of course, Birmingham School of Business. I mean, the Birmingham School is definitely, I'm putting that up high of this era. But this is a great musical way to introduce us a new album. You like the psychedelic nature of this song?
Yeah, the big open guitar is kind of unique for them, but sounds great.
Yes, I think this is actually the album where Craig gets more back in the mix, and Dave Bush machines, they get their spotlight on certain areas and certain tracks where they get honestly a huge spotlight, and like they take over the forefront of the musicality in a couple tracks. It's really great to hear the fall sound lead off an album with this Mark delivering some poetry and actually delivering it like he's got the fresh blood alcohol level at a very, very manageable, good, functioning, productive level.
Yeah, clear,
Mhm.
understandable. Yeah, no, enunciating as best that he can. Yeah, I agree with like the machines. Like it's fine if you want to have a machine based song, but let's let
Mm,
the let's keep the synth and the machines kind of in the background, how they started, and let them add a little spice to the song. But
mhm.
you don't need it to overpower the whole album.
The Ladybird. See, this is kind of the fun because I didn't know that a ladybird in British English is a ladybug, and
Yeah,
ladybird, it's yeah. So I didn't know that, and so I kind of liked it, like thinking about some sort of flying insect or even like a fairy that was that was like it could transparent wings. I kind of like that more as it's even more psychedelic. I just think it fits well, but it being a ladybug is great too because Mark's sitting on the grass. Even there's a line where doesn't he say like the wife said get up or something like that, or the guy said get up.
yeah.
It
Guy
just brought me
says,
down, and I like that line a lot where it's like he's maybe he's in a daze, maybe he's like in a trip, and they're like, get up, like, come on, go." And then that brings him down. That's like kind of makes him depressed or makes him like, "Oh man, I was enjoying myself and now now what do I need to do?" And then there's also as we would assume, there's some sort of war context going on too, right? I don't really lean into that as much even though it's there. Pomerania. The whole first half of the song is really I don't know, it sets a great tone and a great frame to jump into with the band. It makes you excited for what's gonna come up and follow this.
yeah. So the Pomerania comes from a German nursery rhyme that's
Oh, the song
um
has a has a nursery rhyme feel too.
yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna read it because it's in German, but yeah, it's about ladybugs and Pomerania burning down.
Pomerania burning down.
Cockchafer fly. Cockchafer
Okay.
is a ladybug in German, apparently.
Okay, so all sorts of different ladybug terms that we're learning today. Very fun. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to think about it as a ladybug, if you want to go a little bit, a little bit crazy with that, that might be fun too. I enjoyed it. I mean, there's some dark, as much as it's like a psychedelic and it kind of has uplifting beat, right? There's even a line that says, "Your family is gone, shot dead. Get right out of it." I mean, that's the Pomerania burning down. That's the dark side of what's happening, and the juxtaposition between the two things, and him sitting in the grass, maybe just zoning out because he's thinking about the what happened, what went down. Ooh, the gas
Yeah,
was
or he's
obnoxious.
yeah, or it's the Pomerania is burning down, and the guy says, "Get up," and he's just like, "No, I'll just
Oh,
lay here and let it burn me too."
or he's watching it burn down and then a
Yeah,
ladybug flies on him, and it's really, like, kind
yeah,
of a beautiful thing, but it's
yeah,
happening in
right.
a
Like
grotesque Oh,
to maybe bring him out of his trance of what just happened.
mhm. Wow. Well, speaking of different languages, let's jump into the second track, the first cover that we're gonna experience, and let's hear Mark sing, you know, a little bit in a couple lines in a different language, and let's listen to Lost in Music.
Inutile de regarder en arrière, perdu dans la musique, crétin va te faire foutre.
Les monnaies, il sur la table. Il money, il sur la table. Sir, the palace of access leads to the palace of access.
Each of these opening tracks has kind of an intro little sound effect collage. It's really short, a couple seconds. To drop into a song with a little sound collage, even it being the couple seconds long, It's a nice little kind of bookend chapter marker. You're
It
going to
peaks-
go to a different place.
Exactly. It piques the interest.
Now, why do you think he chose this Lost in Music? It's so dancey, fun. It doesn't seem like something they would put onto a record, but then at the same time, it really does.
And it fits well. It fits well with the glam and the disco and
Oh,
like
yeah.
those underlying like themes, but
Yeah.
it's not at all really. Besides the little jangle going throughout it, like it's
Yeah.
not dancey.
No, and also the content is like the money's on the table. It's got a little tinge to it that is right up the Falls alley.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's what it had to have been. I feel like it's got to be one of those like earworm songs that they've heard so many different times at so many different clubs that, and they're just like, what the hell? Like, then all of a sudden you actually pay attention and listen, and you're like, this is good. What are they singing about here?
You like the original?
Oh yeah, a little Sister Sledge. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it was the Sister Sledge is great. Oh man. And then
I wish Mark would have gone a little more falsetto than he already's trying, but I mean,
well, no, he has to save it for the second. He has to save it for the second cover that we're gonna get to, because he has to get up there a little higher. Yeah, no, but I know what you're saying. It would be great if he was trying to get up there. It would be so
he does a
fun.
little bit, but I don't think
Yeah,
I
he
don't think
does.
he can anymore from what
No, but
from the earlier. I mean, this song came out the same year they were formed, 1979.
and Mark was known for, like, on the tour bus and in the tour van, if he got obsessed with a song, he would play it like nonstop, or a CD or an album, a tape. He would play it nonstop, and the band pretty much had no say
Oh,
in the
yeah.
matter.
I could
So
imagine that was just a disaster.
no, so the band was really like, anytime that Mark was like in the back room or like basically not interested in what they were doing, they would be playing all of their favorite stuff, and that was stuff that Mark was not interested in. But then if Mark was around, good golly, they're gonna be getting into some Sister Sledge and some Steve Bent and so but it's so fun. Oh man. Because I was thinking about this the other day too, which is like, if someone said to you and you didn't know, you knew the fall, but someone said, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if Mark did like the fall did a disco song, or like a Sister Sledge song?" You'd be like, "Wow, that would be a weird alternate reality, alternate universe." But yeah, for sure. I would sign up for that in a second. But it turns out we are living in that alternate reality, and we get it. And we get it right here. And I'm very thankful. I don't know if it needs to be the second track, but it does start you off on a very positive foot musically.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, interesting. I mean, as always, interesting track choice. I mean, second and fourth songs on that album are like those are pretty much money spots, right? Like you gotta do covers in them. I mean,
Two
okay.
covers. And two
Okay.
covers that are far out covers, and then the next cover is like, a bunch of people I don't think even knew that was a cover, because
No, it could very
until
easily be a fall original. Like it
yeah, it's
sounds
just
good, easy enough.
the only thing that's throwing it off is like, you're like, why is Mark singing like that?
Yeah.
Why is he doing that? That's the
Or
one
why
like
is,
kind of
why is
little
he actually singing? Why
right.
is he
That's
using
the only hint that would be like, oh, does not really sound like he wrote this.
And you know he doesn't want to leave England ever, so
But he likes his characters going to South America and traveling around. So you're right, But okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves, because let's go into something rockin'. We got the disco rockin' beat, but let's get into something rockin', and let's go into a song that I really particularly enjoy, Glam Racket.
Stop eating all that chocolate. Eat salad instead. In fact, you're a half-wit.
heavy shredding in the beginning.
That's what I'm saying. As an album, like a thoughtful curation of the album, this is some of the most well produced in how it's laid out, the songs. It doesn't just drop into it. It doesn't fade in. Actually, they were never much for fade in. They're kind of like a click, 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 funky side click in the sticks and dropping into it. So anything that's like an extra thoughtful little addition is something I definitely appreciate.
Who do you think Rick is?
I
Who's the
like that he
Glam
said
Rick?
Glam Rick. Why didn't he call it Glam Rick? Well, I
Yeah,
mean, why didn't he
nobody
call it that?
nobody knows. Nobody knows who it is. All the leading experts have not come to a conclusion.
I like.
Steve Hanley tried to say that it's him, but
Oh, really?
nobody's buying it.
Did he buy some white jeans or something? I do like that Steve Hanley a lot of times he's like, there's even another song on this album where I think even Steve Hanley was like, that one's about me too. And I'm like, I like that
Sorry.
Steve Hanley is like, that's me.
No, I guess everyone took it that Steve Hanley said the whole song's about him, but it's only about eating the chocolates.
Yes, okay. And we've talked about that before, about how basically, supposedly, Mark came into the studio, gave him a chocolate bar, and then went into the vocal booth and then was singing the vocals for this. Basically looking at him and says and saying, "Stop eating all the chocolate, eat salad instead." And that's just a hilarious anecdote.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't.
It cracks me up every time.
I finally finished reading the big midweek, and I didn't catch this line, but he says, "For some reason, Mark offered me a bar of dairy milk. I don't often eat chocolate, but it's such a rare thing to be offered food by the boss. And I eat the whole lot before leaving him to get the vocals down of the opening line of Glam Racket. Is him shouting at someone to stop eating all that chocolate and to eat a salad instead."
No, that's just perfect. It's just perfect. Also, the line that just the single line of "you don't get offered food by the boss that often" is just it says so much with so little.
I didn't appreciate all of the intros as much until this listen through, and yeah, I mean, it really does frame the songs perfectly. But yeah, I mean, it's just a good old rock and roll song. Not much else going on that you need to worry about.
Yeah, it's kind of like the most fall that I'd say over the past, let's just say the 90s albums that we've covered so far. It's kind of like the most traditional. It just hits the sweet spot for me with all the fall kind of signature moves, which is A, great Steve Hanley bass line. B, Craig Scanlon, great guitar. C, Mark delivering cutting lines and delivering them really, really great. Backing a chorus gang vocals by
I was gonna say the gang vocals that aren't call and response. Like the call and response is always fun, but this is a little extra layer of it because it's not response. It's just their own backing noise.
And it is kind of glam. The back having the backing vocals like that, it is kind of a glam like shout and like a Gary Glitter type of drum beat.
And it's all it's all guys,
beat.
but the backing vocals almost have some like female feel to it, where it's the backing vocalists that are there doing it.
And this is going to be a great one to hear live. Like this has got to be a great one where the crowd is even getting into it and shouting
shouting back. Absolutely.
Yeah. It'd be so fun. Oh man. There's some great There's some great lines in here. You've cut my income by 1/3. You are working on a video project. You hog the bathroom and you never put your hand in your pocket. Glam, Rick. Yeah. Man. You're paging the Melina in Spain. I don't know what that is referring to, but it's another Spain reference before we're about to go to Spain. Okay, and one more thing about this one. You know how he says you print out 60-page computer printouts. You post 60-page computer printouts on the end of the forest. All of the above will come back to you and confirm you as a damn pest. You know, you know how he says that? There's a theory he's talking about, I think Sting, and how he's like a staunch environmentalist, but then he made this book that came with maybe it came with an album or something. He made this book on like really like good paper and like all this thing. So he's like really cutting him down for being the environmentalist, but then like destroying the rainforest by chopping down the trees to make his book. And that's just one of many instances on this album where you're gonna get Mark like picking up these like subtle little things and throwing them into the song, which is beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
the layers in the lyrics are always fun to decipher.
I sold my car, thrown in my job. I'm 34 years old. I think it's time I saw the world and not Australia. I sold my car, thrown in my job. I'm 34 years old. I think it's time
Listening to the original of this song,
I like the original.
I like the original too, but the only thing I could hear the entire time was that it would be the perfect track for a National Lampoon's Spanish Vacation movie.
The
Just because
original, oh man. I think we're gonna put the original at the end of this episode so people can appreciate it with us. But I can definitely hear that because Steve Bent, who wrote this song, I'm not familiar with Steve Bent. And also, after I listened to the original, I wanted more Steve Bent. And I was looking around, I couldn't find the B side of this. I couldn't find anything. So if any fall heads out there can send us any Steve Bent related recordings, I want to hear more. His voice is so unique. And I think that's part of the reason Mark liked it too. His voice is so unique. And then they added a cool effect on his voice in the original that makes it just sound cool and DIY and like weird in a way that I don't think they were intending for it to be that weird sounding. I think they were just trying to make a ballad song, Steve was, and it turned out to be like a really unique sounding kind of personal song that I think Mark just really gravitated towards. And people really give Mark a hard time for this vocal performance, but honestly, I'm very, very smitten by it. His like going for it.
I love how and when he goes for it.
It's like the thing where if he sang it technically perfect, even better than Steve Bent, it would be less endearing. It's like really great the way that he's trying to sing it higher than his register. And it's just adds a whole dynamic to it. It almost has a dynamic of like a love song with the shimmery guitars that Craig's playing is also just pretty.
What do you think the B-side was called?
Going to Australia.
Doobie Dow song.
Doobie Dow song. That kind of sounds like a hillbilly song.
Steve Bent was born in 1952 on the Isle of Man in the UK. He was on the long-running ATV soap opera Crossroads as Jerry Hurst.
Oh, so he was an actor that just recorded.
Yeah, these are it. This is it. This is all Discogs will tell me. He's only got 2 tracks.
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna have to listen to that other track because I need to hear that. I really enjoyed the I'm Going to Spain.
You also need to see his photo because the Discogs photo is making him look great.
Wow. Steve Bent is looking cool. Wow.
Cool, yeah.
Wow.
I don't know what this is. Is it
The
a headshot?
mustache.
The mustache, the little bow tie.
Wow. Yeah, he looks cool. This is not the type of physique that I was expecting that voice to come from. I was kind of picturing kind of a skin. He's kind of like a stocky guy, a thick guy, great mustache.
I
He
mean, he
definitely looks like he has the expressions of an actor. He was probably a good actor.
it looks like he's still alive. He was just on a soap opera called Doctors in 2023.
Oh man, we got to get Steve Bent on the show.
He was the jailer in Les Miserables.
Okay, we got to get
The
we
Hugh
got to get
Grant
him on here.
one.
That's gonna be good. All right, if anyone knows Steve Bent's contact info, let's. Okay, yeah, cool. So this is great. There's one line on here though that I want to focus in on, and the factory floor presented me with some tapes of Elton John. What are you picturing there?
She's quitting her job. They're saying, "Hey, thanks for working so hard. Have a great trip. See you." I mean, she's leaving, like selling her car. She's out of there.
Mm-hmm. We know
It's
you like
it,
Elton
I don't know.
John.
I always assume it's a woman because he sounds like a woman and singing it. But
No, I like to picture. I mean, I always pictured it as that male Steve Bent voice, like him singing it about himself. But this, I like that. I like that as well. A
yeah, I mean,
female
it says she
perspective.
packed it up. I mean, it's about a woman, right?
Oh,
But
she
yeah,
packed it
like
up.
she packed it up and or that's her mom, I guess. She packed it up
Yeah,
and
her
cashed
mom.
in our premium bonds. But yeah, it still feels like a woman.
Yeah, my mother cried on last Friday night when I said I'll be gone. She packed it up and then cashed her premium bonds, and I'm going to Spain. Cousin Norman had a real fine time last year. They said it doesn't rain. Yeah, it doesn't rain in Spain. An easy rhyme, but it's good. It sets the scene.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's a fun song. Like it certainly doesn't have to be a cover besides the
Yeah,
delivery. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, easily. I just wonder where he heard this song because this is not something you're gonna get. I don't think. I mean,
It's all
correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But like, I don't unless this was a bopping in England, and I was just missing out.
and this is also like such a perfect slice of life song, which might have also been a thing that Mark really enjoyed, which is I hope I can quickly learn the language. And that's like a real, that's a real thoughtful like human experience. Like when you go into a new place, you to like I hope I can quickly learn the language to assimilate and like be a part of the culture or at least experience the culture in a meaningful way instead of like let's just think about an easy way to make a song like this where I'm going to Spain and I'm going to be on the beach and I'm going to be, you know, sipping sangrias and I'm going to, like it's like to just focus on all the things that will happen there, but it's not. It's from the perspective of the person being like, man, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. And that's something you don't really get
Yeah,
in
I mean,
pop
I
music.
just
It's a little
no,
too
because like I
straightforward.
feel like they're leaving, right? Like they ain't coming back.
No, no, they're really going there for real. Yeah. Leaving the factory and going there as start a new life. Once this individual gets there, guess what? It might not be all, sunshine, sun rays, and, you know, cocktails. It might be a curse.
It's gonna. This season's not gonna be what.
It's not going to be wet. Okay, let's get into the last track on side A. It's a curse.
It's a curse. Well, they forsooth. Who is that interesting hack over there? By gad, verily.
Or does he say your tone is you tone out everybody? Like you tune out everybody? I can never really catch what he's saying.
It's like trying to get out of tone of everybody.
The tone of everybody, you tone out of. Well, yeah, I'll have to keep listening to that. It might just be like a little swapping of words to make it sound like something. I mean, this is kind of an Operation Mindfuck.
Yeah, it's like a spooky song that's not really spooky that much. Like
Mm,
it's got the words, but like
hmm It does, and it has like the descriptive language of down their long egg breath, cheap shaving lotion days, their sandwiches stashed under the side seats, their frog-like chins ready to burst. I tell you, it's a curse, it's a burden, trying to get over bargain vampires in shops. I tell you, it's a curse.
I mean it's just like shitting, I feel like, on fucking fat American tourists. Like frog frog like chins ready to burst, bargain vampires,
I get behind that.
sandwiches stashed under their seats,
Uh,
cheap shaving cream,
mhm.
long egg breath. I mean, long down their long egg breath.
I know the long
Oh
egg
man,
breath.
that's
Yeah,
super descriptive
disgusting.
of just munching old
Uh,
egg salad sandwiches. Mm.
And then he's like talking about the look back bores, which is like people that are always looking backwards, and Bach and Wagner. Yeah, just talking about like it was never as good. Like always, probably what he was hearing from this type of person, which is it's never going to be as good as it used to be, right? Back then, we had there was better music. They had the best music. Classical music was the best. And it's like, he doesn't have time for that bullshit. He is like fucking looking forward. He's always looking for what's the next thing. If he was a guy that was just preoccupied with like doing the thing that they originally set out to do, they'd still be doing it. But they're not. They're not. Steve Hanley's bass ripping along.
Little outro here too. Little slow down. Here we go. We'll finish
Yeah.
it off. I mean,
And
great way to end side A, right? Like,
yeah.
unlike them to
hmm
take you somewhere.
A little kind of like electronic clap track that closes out the song and leads you off the side A into side B. Very, very nicely done. Very thoughtful. Very nice. Even though the song is, dark and brooding, that Steve bass line with the rhythm section with funky side drums it's driving along, it's propulsive. Before we get into more darkness on side B, let's look at this album art, Steve. The Infotainment Scan, 1993. I believe this looks very familiar as far as an artist we have come to know and love.
Our best friend and one of our favorite artists, Pascal Legras.
Yeah. And this this cover is cool because I like the black square in it in a diamond configuration because it gives me a lot of the aspects that I pick up on as far as the music, which we don't always get, and it almost reminds me of a viewfinder, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
something you put to your eye and you look through it, and it has a little psychedelic design in the middle with winged thing, and
Yeah,
like
like it's
that.
almost like amoeba like. With a
Yeah, it
little
does. There's all these little offshoots of like this little feathering, and the top and the bottom with the wings. It's like it brings me that ladybird feel, even though now we know it's a apparently it's a ladybug for those that want to be accurate. But it has the wings of of a bird, and then maybe like two eyes intertwined in the middle, but it's really a psychedelic and almost like some sort of trippy color visual hallucination that you're looking through the scope. And then the background is a cool, I always think about it as wallpaper. And
yeah.
I think that also fits really well because it's kind of this wallpaper that looks kind of, what would you say? Like of a
It's
time.
almost abstract, but very concrete. Like, I don't know. It's got like
I see the wings. I see a head sometimes
yeah, I mean, it's
in the
like
pattern.
it's like angels, like multiple points of the
Hmm.
angels, like throughout it. I mean, almost all of it is angels, but like you don't really see it until you look at it. Some of them are upright, some of them are upside down. Their feet are super pointed and going into the center of these like It's almost like those pen tracers that where you'd like put your pen in and like drag it around in a circle and it would do all the loops and stuff.
Oh yeah, it makes a design that's like a symmetrical design.
Yeah, exactly. Like you
Mhm.
just drag it around. You didn't have to like don't move the pen, just follow the tracer thing.
I like the way the text is laid out on an angle. And
Yeah, the text is great. I mean, the light blue on the darker blue. I mean, there's a
Mhm.
colon for some reason again. I mean, they always like to add some punctuation for
There's a colon?
emphasis. Yeah, the fall colon infotainment scan.
Oh, the album cover I'm looking at does not have the colon. But that's okay. That's a little variant. Huh. Cool. Okay, let's flip. They might add that to the expanded edition. Who knows? So, and
Which one I'm looking at.
let's flip it over to the back. The back has a drawing by Pascal, and it's red. And I like this abstract but simple drawing, and you can almost see like the
Well, it's got the same legs as
texture.
the angel character on the front.
Oh, we didn't talk about the change in producers, but we got produced by Rex Sargent for most of the tracks, except for a couple by Marky Smith produced, and then a couple by Simon Rogers produced, which is cool. And then, yeah, that's basically it for that.
Yeah, I love the back.
Yeah, the back is cool. I really like the back too.
Yeah, I love to flip over and see that.
Yeah, it would be a cool like single artwork, if it just had this with nothing on it or just the fall with the single name. All right, I think we nailed that. Let's flip it over to side B and let's get into side B. And if you want to listen to side B right now, head on over to the We Are the Fall Patreon and join us, and you can listen to it right now. Otherwise, it's coming up.